Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Film Room Podcast. This is episode 10. I'm your host, Joe Baress, along with my co-host, Joby Fawcett. Joby, we've made it to episode 10. Did you ever think that we would get here?
Joe, as we often do in sports, it's awfully nice when you get a chance to celebrate milestones. And I know later on this evening you'll be popping the champagne and enjoying the 10th episode of the Film Room Podcast.
That's right. Absolutely. We have an absolutely jam-packed episode for you. And we're going to start with talking to our Times-Tribune Athlete of the Week, Abington Heights tennis player, Susan Arp. Susan, how you doing?
I'm good.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm just going to start by reading off what Susan did last week to get the honor. She defended her District 2 Class 3A individual tennis title with a 7-5, 6-2 victory over Crestwood's Hannah Ziegler, proving her district singles record of 12-0. She has a career record of 70-8 and 18-2 this season. She also led the Lady Comets to a 4th district title in her career. Susan, just to start off with, when it comes to individually, how great does it feel to come through and cap your district individual career with another title?
Yeah, it feels so good. I'm definitely relieved to have done it for my last year, and I'm just thankful for everyone that's helped me get here.
Okay, Susan, so I can remember way back when you were a freshman. I believe I covered one of your first league matches as number 3 singles player, and you won that match, and you were afraid to get interviewed after the match.
Mm-hmm.
But look at how far you have come now, 3-time District 2 Class 3A singles champion. Tell me about all the work that you put in to reach this level at Abington Heights.
Yeah, so obviously a lot of playing tennis during the summers just to get ready for the season. I usually take a month or so in the winter after the season just to take a break, clear my head, and then back to playing multiple times a week.
Absolutely. I want to get back to your district title match. Hannah Ziegler, obviously you're very familiar with her. You've faced her last year in the final as well. You know, how were you able to defeat her again this time by a 7-5, 6-2 victory?
Yeah, so I was down and she was really in control of the match. I started moving her around more, keeping the points going, outlasting her. And eventually I just was able to place the ball and keep the ball in play.
Well, Susan, it was certainly an interesting afternoon for you because in district tennis, you have to play the semifinals first and then the final. And your semifinal match went very quickly. You were very impressive in that semifinal match. Tell me about how difficult it was to have to sit around because Hannah Ziegler and your teammate, Sona Hanyamali, had a very long and intense semifinal match over there at Birchwood. So how were you able to kind of stay relaxed in that time frame between your semifinal match and your final match? And did it have any impact in how you started the match?
I was not really upset about that because I do like having the break. I kind of just walked around, talked to people, relaxed, and tried not to think about the match. But I also watched their match. I think I got done when they were just finishing their first set. So I had at least 2 hours, I think. But yeah, I watched, tried to figure out strengths, weaknesses, where to hit the ball to, stuff like that would give me a little boost going into the match.
Absolutely. You know, so obviously you captured a team title as well in districts. Abington Heights has obviously been, a storied program, and you've kind of helped carry the legacy. What's so great about playing tennis at Abington Heights?
The environment is really fun. Everyone on the team works hard. We all get along really well. I'm close with all the other girls on the team, and then the coaches are great.
Yes, Susan, I think you better make sure you mention the coaches. I heard the head coach is very, very challenging to play for. she's a real stickler for having discipline on the court and everything. But the head coach, of course, being your mom, how much fun has that been for you to be there playing with your mom being the head coach for 4 years?
Yeah, it's been awesome. She obviously taught me how to play when I was little, so it's been like a really good experience to play under her for the last 4 years.
Yeah, definitely. You said you say you like to take a break during the winter, but I see that you do ski as a hobby. Now, my experience level is pretty much the bunny slope. I think the most I've done is maybe easy street, and I think I cried when I got to the bottom of the hill. But so, where do you go to ski, and how good are you? And like, is there struggle now that these winters have been kind of warm?
I'm not like super, I don't ski that much. I just do it for fun. I think it's really fun. And I ski mostly at Montage.
Oh, nice.
Oh, very nice. I didn't know that about you, Susan. We find out all these interesting things now that you're a senior. So listen, congratulations again, of course, on winning the district championship. But now you move on to states. You're going to be in states in the team championships tomorrow. And then you kind of get a gauge of where you are there. And then you're going to be heading out to Hershey. So how much do you kind of look forward to this opportunity to play at this level in the state competition?
I think states is really fun because it's a super high level of tennis. And around here, like, we don't get that many, like, super great matches in our league. So the girl tomorrow I'm playing is very good. It's going to be, she's a phenomenal player. But I always enjoy playing good players because I get to hit a lot of balls and just have a lot of good points. And then single states is a super fun experience, getting to go down to Hershey and just practice on the courts, warm up, watch all the other good players play, and then play.
Absolutely. Yeah, I saw that you also play softball. Is there anything with tennis that helps with softball or vice versa for you?
I think the hand-eye coordination probably, it transfers over. I don't think it transfers that much.
Right.
No, but it does.
Staying in shape over the spring.
Susan, so what's on tap for you moving forward? You're such a talented player. College is surely right around the corner, I'm sure, for you. What are your future plans, if you have any?
I'm not sure yet. I'm hoping to play at some level in college and just have fun with tennis.
Yeah, definitely. All right, I think that's all I have for Susan. Joby, you got anything else?
Susan, I just want to congratulate you again. It's been a real pleasure being able to cover you through your whole varsity career here, from when you were a freshman all the way to being a senior. And you certainly did earn this championship. It was a great performance by you, and I want to wish you the best of luck tomorrow and down at States and next weekend.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Susan. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that was Susan Arp, our Times-Tribune Athlete of the Week.
Joe, she is an excellent tennis player. Now, listen, it's not always easy. She kind of came into a situation there. Her mom's the head coach, which is, sometimes could be difficult, especially in a sport of tennis.
Yeah.
Her mom is a great coach, and she's done a great job with the program over there. And Susan's been a big part of these 4 championships. She got into the starting lineup right from her freshman year, and she really has developed into one of the finer players we've had here in District 2 history. 3 championships in a row is pretty impressive.
Absolutely, Joby. So let's stay there. Obviously, we have a very busy week. You have a busy week of a lot of postseasons getting started and some continuing. Let's talk about tennis. Obviously, you'll be, I believe, at the tennis tomorrow, the first round of the team championships. What do we have to look forward to there?
Yeah, so Joe, as Susan mentioned, Abington Heights is going to be involved tomorrow over at Birchwood Racket Club. But we start off with Scranton Prep, the defending PIAA Class 2A champion, opening up against Allentown Central Catholic. Now, this is a very good team. Believe it or not, Joe, I'd be concerned a little bit if I'm Scranton Prep. This first round match may be the most difficult for Scranton Prep. I could be wrong, but it may be the most challenging that the Scranton Prep team is going to face if it is going to defend the championship. We all know the history of this team. The top three singles players, Lily Lengel, Alyssa Wigley, and Emma Cuck. All three of them went 4-0 in the state team tournament last year. So as long as those three win, the team can win wins the individual matchups. But the doubles teams are very good as well. And so we'll see how Scranton Prep fares. That's at 11 o'clock. I'll be at that one. And then you have the Abington Heights will be taking on a team from out of District 3, New Oxford. It's always a challenge to play those teams out of District 3, a very big hotbed of tennis on the state level. So good action there. And then if either team is able to win or both are able to win, they'll move on to the state championships Friday and Saturday down in Hershey. The following weekend is when Susan will be taking part in the singles championship in Class 3A. And then, of course, we cannot forget, Joe, Wyoming Seminary's Alana Rosenthal, who happens to be also a 3-time District 2 champion in Class 2A and is the 2-time defending PIAA Class 2A champion. So she's going to get her state title defense started as well in 2 weeks, and not this weekend, the following weekend. So a lot of good stuff going on in tennis, Joe, and as you know, it keeps me busy here during what is also the most busy time of my football season.
Exactly, Joby. I just want to say about Alana Rosenthal. You know, we mentioned it here, but I was just like, Kara Evans was up 5-3 in that match, and she comes in straight set victory. Just being a champion. So good for her, and good luck to her going through states.
Joe, it's unfortunate because I'm not a skilled enough writer to allow readers to fully appreciate how talented Alana is as a tennis player. She is just so well skilled, and she never wavers, and she has precise shots. She has an outstanding serve. Like, the words that I choose don't do it justice. And I feel bad for the readers out there because she is just such a graceful player on the court and also combines great power and skill. And listen, that translates over to a couple of state championships. So we'll see how she does here in a couple of weeks.
Joby, don't get too down on your writing now. Come on now.
Joe, I always feel anytime someone wins of her caliber or her skill level, I always feel I let them down. But we give it a shot, Joe.
That's all you can do. You try your best, That's it. So obviously another one of the sports that you cover is volleyball. I believe last week North Pocono officially captured the league title. I thought there was another interesting match, a 5-setter between Mountain View and Western Wayne, with Mountain View coming out on top of that one. Rachel Evans, 32 assists, Addison Kilmer, 13 kills, 10 blocks, with Mountain View clinching the top seed in the District 2 Class 1A field. Anything you want to touch on as far as, looking ahead to the volleyball postseason?
All right, Joe, I'm going to try to do this quickly because we want to get to everything. And this is obviously a lot of information here for people to digest with the volleyball. But let's start right at the top. Yes, North Pocono did win the Lackawanna League championship. Congratulations to the Lady Trojans. Outstanding season. North Pocono is the number 1 seed in the District 2 Class 3A postseason. That 3A bracket that North Pocono in is going to have some very intense matchups. Okay. Berwick is the Wyoming Valley Conference champion. That team is in the 3A. They're the 2 seed. Crestwood, which beat Berwick head to head in the regular season Wyoming Valley Conference, is the number 3 seed. Then you've got Abington Heights coming in at the 4 seeds.
That is intense, Joby. That's intense. Joby, I think we lost you. You must be getting another spam call. Joby, are you back? All right, we have lost Joby Fawcett mid-rant on volleyball. So obviously that's going to be an intense in Class 3A. Other things that
you've got
look ahead to. Joby, you're back. Were you getting another spam call?
Was I getting a call?
You must be getting another spam call, Joby.
And I was just rattling off some good information.
You were rolling, and then all of a sudden, when you were at the end of the 3, talking about the 3A, it just stopped. So but anything you want to try to repeat?
Well, but since I don't know where I left off, and I'm sorry that I ruined this wonderful podcast for you once again. I didn't even realize my phone was ringing. And Joe, even if I knew how to do not disturb this, I would do it.
I just assumed you were getting another spam call.
I'll be getting one shortly. Okay, so the 3A, yes, very deep. Berwick and Crestwood are two teams that are going to be coming out of the Valley Conference that are going to give North Pocono a challenge. And, of course, Abington Heights is the 4 seed there. In Class 2A this year, Holy Redeemer knocked off North Pocono in a non-league match, okay? And at the end of the season, Holy Redeemer is the number 1 seed now in that Class 2A. Western Wayne's the 2, and Blue Ridge, which had been the 10-time champion in Class 1A, playing up in 2A this year because of an increase in enrollment. Blue Ridge is the number 3 seed. Mountain View is going to be the overwhelming favorite in Class 1A. Had some very impressive wins this year, including a 3-1 win over Holy Redeemer. And then, of course, in 4A, Delaware Valley is the number 1 seed, Joe, in 4A. Mm-hmm. Delaware Valley has also won a district championship, whether it be whatever classification that it was in, whether it be 3A or 4A, for 14 straight years.
Right.
This year, however, they'll have a very big challenge from Williamsport out of District 4 and Hazleton area, which beat Delaware Valley in the regular season. So a lot of volleyball stuff coming up. We got quarterfinals Thursday and Friday, and then we move into the semifinals and finals the following week.
Yeah, Joby, just really an intense week of starting, postseasons for every sports. We've got soccer starting up, I believe, either tomorrow or Wednesday. Field hockey gets started tonight with the Class 2A tournament, and we'll continue on. So we're really ramping up here. One thing I wanted to mention as far as soccer goes, just to let everybody into this, we can only give the athlete of the week to someone one time a year. So, but
right.
there are some great performances.
Right.
So Lilia Calvert, obviously we've had her on the show. She was an athlete of the week. She had 2 goals and a 6-0 win over Delaware Valley. That set a program record with her 237th point. And that also got her to 100 career goals. She had 4 goals and a 7-1 victory over Mid Valley, had 2 goals and a 3-0 victory over Williamsport. We've talked about her a ton, but just another milestone for a great athlete.
Yeah, she's terrific, Joe. And I'm glad you mentioned that about us not being able to give an athlete of the week more than once, because we've had a number of athletes this year that you probably could say or warrant more than one athlete of the week honor. But yeah, great job by her. And boy, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, she's only a junior.
Yeah. Exactly. Joby, it's crazy. The numbers are going to be outrageous by the end of her career. So
it's incredible.
It is, seriously. Speaking of, those highlight performances from former Times-Tribune Athletes of the Week earlier this season, our first guest here on the Film Room podcast had a big week leading an upset victory over Western Wayne. He had 162 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns on 31 carries. He had 2 interceptions, added 2 catches for 15 yards for good measure. And as Mid Valley beat Western Wayne, previously unbeaten Western Wayne, 22-10. Joby, you were there. Tell me about this game.
Well, Joe, listen, and I know we're going to jump right into football here, which you're in charge, but yes. So you know my history of not selecting great games of the week. This one, the score is going to be 22-10, Joe, okay, as a final. But I will tell you, it was an excellent football game. Mid-Valley, 6-3 on the season, okay, Joe?
Yep.
And one of the losses, of course, was the Lackawanna Trail. You were at that game.
Yep.
One of the other losses came against Dunmore, 21-20. Jacob Lesher did not play. This kid is a legit football player. I mean, he just, you know who?
Oh no, Joby, not another spam call. Not another
What?
spam call. Not another spam call.
No,
There we go. You're back. You're back.
Am I getting? I
right.
should be back, right?
Yes,
okay.
You are back. Absolutely. Go for it.
All right, no more calls. My phone is not ringing. All right. Joe, I hate comparing any high school player to a professional football player, okay? Because obviously there's different skill sets there, okay?
Yep.
He reminds me of the way he runs and attacks the line of scrimmage. Like, remember when Le'Veon Bell used to be a real good football player for the Steelers?
Yep.
That's who he reminds me of running the football. He's very patient.
Right.
He waits for the seam to open up. You've seen it yourself live and in person.
Yep.
The next thing you know, he hits that at full speed, and Western Wayne just had no way to kind of contain him, especially in the second half. He had more than 100 yards in the second half. Where Mid-Valley, Phil, I don't often go too in-depth with statistics. I try not to anyway. But Mid-Valley had a couple of drives where they converted 3 third-down situations. So you're running 3 plays and converting and moving the chains. Running 3 plays, converting, moving the chains. Running 3 plays, converting, moving the chains. And during that time, the clock is going. Tick, 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 tick. And Western Wayne couldn't get the ball back. And then when it did get the ball back, it went 3 and out, and Mid-Valley scored again. And the next thing you know, Mid-Valley wins the football game. Jacob Lesher had a terrific game. Yes, Mid-Valley's defense was impressive from start to finish of that football game. Western Wayne, I think, had, of course, a 55-yard touchdown to start the game to Sean Owens. Sean also had a 25-yard fake punt that led to a field goal. I think Western Wayne on the first 2 drives of the game had 85 total yards of offense. I think they had 70 yards of offense the rest of the way. So Mid-Valley's defense, Gavin Rapooch, Reese Williams, Caleb Perry, great job on the defensive side as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This was just, and, Brett Yanofsky having a pretty efficient day, 14 of 18 for 182 yards and a touchdown. One of the, obviously it's not a knock on Western Wayne, but I think one of the things that I saw when I saw them is play Wyoming area is Wyoming area was able to move the ball with the pass. And it seems like Brett Yanofsky and Mid-Valley were able to kind of break through here in the pass a little bit.
I'm very impressed with what Brett Yanofsky has been able to do here, Joe, in executing Mid-Valley's passing game, especially in this time of the year when people are going to be focusing on Jacob Lesher in the running game. And he's done a nice job in not just, executing the offense, but distributing the football to a number of different players. He's not just kind of focusing in on one guy. He's getting it to the tight end. He's getting it to backs out of the backfield. He's getting it to his wide receivers. And he's throwing a nice ball, Joe.
Yeah.
He's been impressive. His maturation has really helped Mid-Valley to become a really, really good team. And Joe, look, after that game, I think you have to take a long, hard look at that District 2 Class 3A.
Yeah.
Clearly, Prep's the favorite.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But then you have Western Wayne's going to be very, very, of course, wanting to, have a big bounce back after the loss to Mid-Valley. And Wyoming area, you mentioned, Wyoming area played Western Wayne earlier in the year. Wyoming area is 8-1.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly, Joby. So, I mean, there's a lot in Class 3A. It's gonna be a fun postseason there.
Yeah, in Class 3A for sure, Joe.
Yeah. So I had a game. I went to a game too, Joby. I did.
Joe, you did an excellent job, by the way. I hope people are making sure that they're able to see the videos you're putting together of the highlights, because that's a big part of it as well. But you really saw a team which I think, Joe, Honesdale came in with a purpose.
Yes, they did. You really put it perfectly. There's obviously, when it comes to any sport, you have your good days, you have your bad days, you do one thing right and the other thing wrong. Honesdale just really brought it all together and culminated the exact team that they want to be against Dunmore. Mason Avery, just the numbers alone, he had 182 yards and 2 touchdowns on 17 carries. A catch for 11 yards, an 85-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. But really the most impressive thing in this 49-20 win over Dunmore for Honesdale by Mason Avery is that he scored 3 touchdowns in a game time, 1:09. Dunmore ends up, they go down 20-0 at the half, and they come out, they score a touchdown, and it's just like, okay, maybe they're getting their footing under them. And then all of a sudden, 85-yard kickoff return for a touchdown by Mason Avery, onside kick. Then there's a 65-yard touchdown for Mason Avery, interception, 30-yard touchdown for Mason Avery, all in a span of 1:09. And he wasn't the only player who just had a great game. Gabe Duda, phenomenal game. The numbers again here don't really tell the whole story. 61 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns on 4 catches, added 37 yards rushing on 5 carries. He gave them a bit of a boost on their first touchdown drive, in the run game, starting to burst some runs. And then 4th and 17 after Honesdale was knocked back 15 yards by a penalty, 4th and 17 on the 17, it was goal to go. And Aiden Collins hits him on a slant pattern. He runs it in for a touchdown, gets that offense moving. He also had a 99-yard interception return for a touchdown. Just really, really, I was very impressed by Honesdale, not to take anything away from Dunmore, who was really getting their footing under them going into this game, but just a really impressive win by Honesdale.
And an important one, Joe, because Honesdale, as a Class 4A team playing in that Lackawanna Football Conference Division II, sometimes its head-to-head matchups don't allow for it to have high power ratings points. And what happens, too, for Honesdale, unfortunately, Joe, is kind of hit a rough spot in the year.
Right.
Got out to that 2-0 start and then lost a couple of games in a row. And now you look at Honesdale after the win over Lakeland, which was, of course, right down to the last second.
Right.
And now look at this performance. And, boy, offensively, it's not like you're at Dunmore, you're visiting. That's on the road. You produce those kind of offensive numbers. And so, listen, that got Honesdale into the top 4 for right now in Class 4A. Now, Honesdale's got to finish this deal off and go to 6-4 because not so sure how 5-5 plays into the equation with the teams from Mountain Valley Conference and Wallen-Paulpack involved in the mix here. But certainly in a situation where Honesdale needed to have a good performance, those kids came out and played. And for those who don't know a lot about Honesdale, Joe, very senior-oriented team.
Yeah.
We know we had, of course, the story last week on Wyatt Rutherford. This group has been through a lot emotionally. You remember back a couple of years ago, we touched on it last week, was Samson Fluck. Their teammate and classmate died just after a playoff loss. So I think this group of seniors kind of saw the sand in the hourglass, started to trickle through that little neck of the hourglass and really put out a heck of a performance this week.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought up the defense. It just really, they stopped 2 drives where Dunmore went into the red zone early, forced a 3-and-out in the first half, blocked a field goal. It was just a great performance. And like you said, speaking of seniors, Aiden Collins looked very good. He was efficient, 7 of 9, 135 yards, passing in 3 touchdowns. He did have an interception, but some of his throws were really great. To Conlon Keast, he hit down the middle, just on a perfect throw, a 55-yard touchdown. And also, like you said, with the seniors, he's trusting his receivers. Right before the end of the half, Gabe Duda catches a 30-yard pass for a touchdown. And Aiden Collins basically said, I trust you, go up and get it. He put it in a spot where his receiver could get it. And Gabe Duda comes down with it, gives Honesdale a 20-0 lead as time expires. So you're absolutely right. Senior driven, and they're going to go for that. This is the first time they beat Dunmore since 1997. And apparently they're going for their first winning season since 2014, I believe, when I was outside the huddle listening to Coach Paul Russick. So just really an overall great night for Honesdale.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, John. Listen, last week we had a lot of great performances and some milestone things that happened. I don't want to jump the gun here for you a little bit, but this is week 10 coming up. And fortunately in our area, for the kids, a lot of our teams qualify for the District 2 playoffs in the Life Warren Football Conference. So their season will get extended by a week, but seniors really start to elevate their play as they see the season coming to a close. Now, I know it looks more like late August, early September out there weather-wise, but yeah, I mean, this is the final game of the regular season for a lot of these kids. And what that does is next week, these are elimination games moving forward. So
right.
they'll really be kind of treasuring this week 10, because Joe, you were an athlete. I know people don't remember that as much as they should, but it's emotional for a kid who's dedicated a great deal of his free time to athletics, especially football, which takes up a lot of time for a kid, with the weight room and the conditioning in the summer, the 7-on-7s, the summer 2-a-days, and you're going to be sitting in front of that locker. You realize that, hey, this is winding down for me. And look, not a lot of these kids move on to play in college. We don't have a huge number of kids that do that in our area. So there's going to be a lot of emotion out there on the fields here in week 10.
Oh, certainly. And Joby, you did mention a milestone, and we've talked about him in the past. In Abington Heights' 42-21 win over Scranton, Nick Bradley was 17-24 for 311 yards and 4 touchdowns. And in the process, he set a school record for passing yards, surpassing Chris Kelly's record of 3,882. Again, just, I don't know how much more you could say based on what you've said, but just another great game and a milestone for Nick Bradley.
Okay, Joe, listen, we had Susan Arp on earlier. She's the District 2 Class 3A singles champion in girls tennis. Okay. We had, as an athlete of the week, Cade Kelleher, right? Yep. He's a golfer, Abington Heights. We've had, as an athlete of the week, Willie Calvert, Abington Heights. Yep. Okay. And now you've got Nick Bradley, who is already committed to continue his athletic career at Auburn. Okay.
Right.
These are Abington. What's going on over there at Abington Heights? I mean, I realize that historically Abington Heights has always produced pretty high level athletes, but boy, this fall season they've kind of taken the Lackawanna Interscholastic Athletic Association by storm. Hey, Nick Bradley, look, here's a kid. He's a junior, by the way.
Yep.
He committed, I think, to Auburn as a freshman. Joe, he throws the ball with such accuracy and speed. He's got a collegiate arm in football as well as baseball, if he chose to do that. And he's got great receivers at Abington Heights. And there's a team there, Joe, too. Last couple of weeks, a couple of 40-plus point performance games as Abington Heights kind of trudges along here toward the postseason. Right now, Abington Heights is the number 1 seed in District 2 Class 5A. Delaware Valley is the number 2 seed. Pittston area is the number 3. And then we're going to get one of 2, whether it be Wyoming Valley West or West Scranton as the 4 seed. All indications are that we're going to get Abington Heights and Delaware Valley for a rematch from that game that I covered a couple of weeks ago, 35-28. Oh, boy, that'd be a dandy.
Yeah.
That'd be a dandy for a district final if we get that again. But, yeah, congratulations to Nick Bradley. Another fantastic performance by him. He's just maturing each and every time out. And he's up over the 4,000-yard mark now for his career, which puts him in elite company. I believe he's the 20th player in LIAA history to throw for more than 4,000 yards in his career. So congratulations to him.
Absolutely. Congratulations to him. And you mentioned Delaware Valley. They're really in that race for that top seed in Class 5A. They're neck and neck with Abington Heights, as you said. They won 38-26 over North Pocono. Mike Isolino had 204 yards rushing on 4 touchdowns on 18 carries. Logan Olsemer completed 14 of 15 passes for 115 yards and added 68 yards rushing and a touchdown. On North Poconos, and, very young team, and Chase Zimmerman, I believe he's a sophomore.
Yep.
Was 17 of 26, 171 yards and 3 touchdowns, added 43 yards rushing and a touchdown on 18 carries. That's a nice game for him, but Delaware Valley does come up with the win and keeps pace with Abington Heights.
Joe, it's always interesting when Delaware Valley plays North Pocono because, as everyone knows by now, I hope, that Keith Olsemer, the head coach at Delaware Valley, was, of course, an all-state player at North Pocono. He was really one of the catalysts for North Pocono's finest season back in 1991 when the Trojans were 12-0 and denied the opportunity to play in the state playoffs because back then everything was done on a rating system, and North Pocono somehow got outpointed by a loophole in the rules that Shamokin used. But anyway, Keith is a terrific athlete. He went on to play at Penn State and then for the Baltimore Ravens. He's the head coach of Delaware Valley. But, Delaware Valley's doing some great things. Terrific rebound from an 0-4 start. But how about North Pocono, Joe? This situation has become for North Pocono. Joe Brisky's out, hasn't played for a while. He's the freshman running back who had such a great start in the first 4 weeks of the season. Chase Zimmerman is a sophomore. Okay. Cole West, wide receiver. He's a sophomore. Young players that North Pocono is trying to build upon or build with. Tough loss, though, because North Pocono is part of that grouping in that District 2 Class 4A. And you need to get yourself up to at least 500. And, that was a tough one because North Pocono really went nose to nose with Delaware Valley, and a win there really would have helped North Pocono in its quest to make the playoffs. Now, tough assignment, I believe, this week, Joe, for North Pocono, hosting Scranton Prep. But we'll see. I mean, look, if they gave that kind of performance against Delaware Valley, maybe they can certainly give one against a Scranton Prep team that really got a huge win this week.
Yeah, let's go right there. Scranton Prep beat Jersey Shore in a non-league game, 27-19. Another big game for Lewis Baress, had 134 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns on 14 carries. He also had 94 yards passing. Will McPartland, 87 yards rushing and a touchdown on 17 carries and added a 69-yard catch. Again, just another strong win for Scranton Prep to give it experience going ahead as we near the postseason.
Oh, Joe, so Scranton Prep, kudos to the administration there in the athletic department in particular to schedule these non-league games that Scranton Prep desperately needed. Okay, if you go back and look at its schedule over the last couple of years, of course, it's been very successful in the Lackawanna Football Conference, but too often Scranton Prep, for whatever reason, Joe, got matched up with some really one-sided games. Okay,
right.
You don't want to disparage another high school program, but it just was Scranton Prep was ending up playing really limited football in some of its non-league games. Okay. So in an effort to beef up that non-league schedule, of course, we know what happened this year, went out and played down in Maryland and then played up in Buffalo, had the Buffalo team. Canisius came down here and played in Scranton, and now to play Jersey Shore. And Jersey Shore is a team that I believe has had 80-some wins over the last 5 years or 6 years, whatever the case may be, a couple of trips to the state semifinals. And Jersey Shore is trying to build a little bit of a relationship with District 2 here. We played Delaware Valley earlier and Dallas earlier this year. But this was an important win for Scranton Prep moving forward because it's a very good, well-coached opponent late in the season. That'll be the case again this week when Scranton Prep takes on North Pocono. And it does give them good preparation for what I think is still going to be, as we mentioned earlier, a very, very competitive District 2 Class 3A field, with Scranton Prep being the favorite. But again, I think there's some teams in there that can really, really make some noise.
Definitely. Joby, I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but you were at another game this weekend, so.
Yeah, well, I do want to touch on it, Joe, and I'll tell you why. Look, Lackawanna Trail took care of business on Saturday, which I expected, okay?
Right.
But 56 to 13. And again, that's not relevant for the conversation here today, but here's what you have with Lackawanna Trail now. This week, the Lions will host Riverside, which is 9-0 for the first time since 2008. Okay. We all know about the great seasons and careers that Riverside quarterback Chase Tedonio and tight end Richie Kostoff have had. Okay. They've both established themselves not just in their own school records, okay, but also in the history books for the Lackawanna Football Conference. So congratulations to them. And Lackawanna Trail is the defending champion in the Division III. So that's what this game is, what's on the line here Friday with Riverside taking on Lackawanna Trail at Lions Pride Stadium. So I do want to say that I thought I covered the game, Joe, from Lackawanna Trail sideline, and I did so because I kind of wanted to get a feel for what was going to happen. They had some kids going for some things that they wanted to accomplish and then get them out of the game. And Steve Jervis, head coach at Lackawanna Trail, he couldn't have been more businesslike in the game. His kids played very hard. They executed, did not commit a penalty until the third quarter. Just executed from the get-go and had a very strong performance. But as we have talked about, Joe, throughout this episode of the Film Room podcast is you want to start getting yourself ready for the postseason. And you do that by playing some good opponents, playing at a high level, having to raise your level of play. And I think that's exactly what we're going to get here on Friday night between Riverside and Lackawanna Trail. So I am looking forward to that football game. And no, Joe, you cannot negotiate to that game.
Come on, Joby. Jeez.
Nope. No, that's mine.
All right, fine. I guess that's fair. You are the beat writer after all.
Well, so sometimes I wonder if I am, but certainly on this occasion, I'm going to
use your executive power.
I'm going to use the executive power. Right?
That's fair. One team that's really, definitely moving in the right direction, Joby, at the right time. I mean, you've been saying it for weeks though, so maybe this shouldn't be a surprise, but just a really nice win for Carbondale area over Susquehanna. Carbondale area 22, Susquehanna 12. Ethan Bruin had 137 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns on 27 carries, added 3 catches for 70 yards. But maybe the defense was even the bigger story for Carbondale area. Again, like you've been saying, Carbondale area defense has been great, and they pick up a nice win here, I believe, getting them into the top 10, Joby.
Yeah, Joe. And so we had the top 10 come out on Monday. And yeah, Carbondale area got in there. New team into the top 10 this week. Holmesdale also got back into the rankings after being in the preseason and then falling out and then now has returned. But Carbondale area got an interesting phone call from head coach Jeff Arthur today, Joe. In addition to those impressive offensive numbers by Ethan Bruin, okay,
yeah.
He had at one point, and Jeff hadn't completed the film study yet, but he had him up to 15 tackles. So he was all over the field. Look, I did mention this earlier, Joe, when I saw Carbondale area against Holy Cross, and then I saw them again against Lackawanna Trail. I thought defensively, Carbondale area can play with just about anybody in the league, and at any level. I think they have a very good defense.
Right.
I think they execute things well. They play with a high level of intensity. Certainly in that Division III of the Lackawanna Football Conference, those kids are excellent. So we'll see. It is interesting now for Carbondale area because, again, with the co-op that Carbondale area has, it's 3A in football. Now, according to Jeff Arthur and Larry Gabriel, the athletic, they would be 3A no matter what. So that's why they continue to have this four-city agreement. So it does help them in terms of getting some bodies out for the football team. But with the way Carbondale area plays defense, Joe, I don't put anything past that football team in the postseason. And it's going to be interesting to see where Carbondale area lands in the seeding in District 2 Class 3A for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, Joby. All right. I think that just about wraps us up for recapping week 9. Lakeland beat West Scranton 25-18. And what do we got? Valley View beat Wyoming Valley West 35-10. Joby, is there anything left?
Just Valley. Just that Valley View clinched the number 1 seed in Class 4A.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
With that victory, I think that was a foregone conclusion anyway. And Lakeland again ended a lengthy losing streak and clinched a spot in the District 2 Class 2A playoffs. So we'll see how that all plays out with Lakeland. But I'm always glad to see a team kind of get off the schneid a little bit. Kind of got out to that 2-0 start, and then injuries really befell them and kind of derailed their season here. But they are going to make the playoffs. Yeah, Joe. So listen, it was a really busy week for us, week 9. And it leads us into, as I mentioned, week 10. And as you know, Joe, we get an early start this week. Western Wayne's going to play Dunmore on Thursday, okay, at Dunmore Veterans Memorial Stadium. The winner of that game, at the very least, clinches a tie for the Lackawanna Division II championship, okay? Yep. That pending the outcome of the Mid-Valley game against Lakeland on Friday. Mid-Valley, if it beats Lakeland, will also guarantee itself at least a share of the Division II championship, okay?
Yep.
We mentioned already Riverside and Trail will play for the Division III championship. Scranton Prep's already clinched a tie for the Division I championship. Would like to win it outright and can do so by beating North Pocono. I mention these things, Joe, because I'm kind of old school when it comes to this. I still believe, I know all eyes are on the district playoffs, and really that's what teams gauge their seasons toward now. I think winning division championships are still an important part, an element of high school football. And I think any of the 3 teams or 4 teams, whatever we get to win division championships this weekend coming up, should all be very, very proud of what they've been able to accomplish over the 10 weeks.
Oh, certainly, Joby. Yeah, you put it perfectly. So, Joby, what can you tease for us coming out? Your game face section, which is released every Friday in the paper. You can also get the stories online at the Times-Tribune.com/sports. But what can you tease coming up on that?
Okay, I'm going to be going on the road tomorrow to a Tuesday. I'll specify what tomorrow is.
Right,
Tuesday.
sure.
I'm going to visit Mid-Valley. I was so impressed with the Spartans against Western Wayne. We're going to do a little game face feature on one of their standout players who doesn't always get a lot of the attention because he's so soft-spoken. And I only say that he's soft-spoken. He doesn't really say a lot. He's kind of really all business-like on the field, but he's got a great story. He made a position change that helped the team, and he has really had an outstanding season, certainly on the defensive side of the football. And I was very impressed with the defense against Western Wayne. So we're going to do a feature on them. And we mentioned already the game of the week is going to be Riverside at Lackawanna Trail. That's going to be in game face as well on Friday. And Joe, for those who are keeping track at home, me as the high school beat writer, so to speak, for the Times-Tribune, I am in last place in grid pick. So people are really starting to monitor that. And clearly me emphasizing week in and week out with my grid picks that I know nothing about high school football. Well, those at home who have been keeping track and sending me emails and text messages can certainly continue to do that, Joe.
That's right. As they should. You ever get people just like, well, you definitely do, but it's just funny. You're like shopping and then someone's just like, what were you thinking picking this? I'm just like, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, it's Joe.
We just do this, you know?
We just do it. And here's the thing. I always feel bad, especially when I'm at a game I cover, and I've long lobbied for the ability not to pick the game I cover. But, it would just be too long for me to explain why I make a pick I make. But what I would say is, if I motivate you enough to have a great performance, whether I pick for you or pick against you, then I know I'm doing my job. But the most important thing, Joe, is that you're reading it. And that's
right.
What I
really
care about most.
Agreed.
You can love me or hate me, but at least you're reading.
At least you're reading. That's right, Joby. I love it. Yeah, so Joby, I actually, what we should touch on it's going to be difficult to kind of wrap it up quickly, but obviously last week we lost Guy Valvano, just a local sports, just a fixture in local sports around here. You wrote a story about him. It was very good. Could you talk about him a little bit? I know it's a tough task, but just what he meant to local sports around here.
Joe, Guy Valvano was just a wonderful human being, and I think a couple of the people who I spoke to and having to write that obituary on him, that's where they all started. Okay, with just what a wonderful man he was. On top of that, he was a sports writer in an era of competition in Northeast Pennsylvania where there were two newspapers and you were kind of, always in hot pursuit of a big story or having that breaking thing, the story that would help generate newspaper sales and certainly get your name out there. But first and foremost, I got to know Guy when I was an athlete at Lakeland, and he interviewed me for a couple of times for stories, and he was just such a gentleman. And he put you at such ease that you were able to kind of, at a young age, express your feelings toward your sports or whatever. He didn't talk to a lot of athletes. Okay. He built very strong relationship with coaches. But one of the things he really prided himself on when he was a writer was he liked to write stories on the kids who didn't necessarily always see their names in the headlines. Okay.
Yeah.
Then in his retirement, I kind of came on board at the Scranton Times post his involvement in the newspaper part of it, and he had since moved on to the sports information director over at Lackawanna College. He couldn't have been more gracious in sharing just countless records. His record keeping is just impeccable, Joe. It's incredible. I visited him at his house one time, and he showed me these file cabinets just filled with documents and history, and it overwhelmed me. He was really a human computer when it came to that stuff. And but first and foremost, Joe, again, I emphasize enough, he made me want to be a high school sports writer. I could never obviously live up to his high standard. I always strove to do that, but he definitely pointed me in the right direction when I needed to. He would call me every now and then to kind of give me a voice of encouragement, knowing that things were kind of avalanching on me. And he, having been in that position before, kind of knew I could use a little pick-me-up, and he would just kind of pick up the phone and call or send an email or whatever. But a sad loss for the area, 96 years old, and boy, sharp as a tack right to the end.
Yeah.
Joe, no one's going to be able to call upon me at some point for you try to do it every now and then. I don't know the answer to some of the questions you ask me about sports in the area. He could rattle it off in seconds. Yeah. And he just took great pride in being a part of this area, being part of the Dunmore community. He loved his family. He loved watching his grandkids and his kids and their sporting endeavors, and really sad. But I was proud to be able to write that story. I wish I didn't have to write it.
Right.
But he was a legend, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Joby, you've taken at least I'm sure not to his standards, but you've taken the record keeping very well, and you always do these podcasts with me just off the cuff. I've got these pages of Google Docs, and you're just rattling stuff off. So maybe you got a little of that from Guy. So
I don't know about that, Joe, but listen, the only thing, by you unveiling that technique, now more people will be telling me I'm wrong. So that's, I do the podcast with no notes.
That's
so
right.
If I am off on some things and I mess up or I, have you point in the wrong direction, just understand it's all in there. It's just a matter of me organizing it.
Exactly. Jeez, Joby, I'm letting away all your secrets. I've told people where you live. I've told people.
Yeah, Joe, thanks.
I really need to stop doing this.
Yeah.
So Joby, we're creeping up on an hour. Anything else you want to touch on before we sign off here?
No, Joe, but listen, great win by the Packers yesterday.
Know it.
how fitting that you got one on a game-winning field goal. Your favorite player, Mason Crosby, for so many years led the Packers to victory. So you went on a game-winning field goal yesterday. That's nice. And Joe, listen, Penn State was off. Yep. Great college football. Georgia beat Texas. Alabama got beat by Tennessee.
Yep.
Next thing we know, Penn State's ranked third.
That's right.
They're going to make the playoff, Joey.
Yeah, they're going to. Joby, we are
going
to make the playoffs.
With a lot of great Penn.
Even if they lose to Ohio State, be good. Right?
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see that Ohio State game 2 weeks.
Yep, exactly. It should be fun. Yep, a lot of great college football. Even the Rams won, Joby.
Joe, the Rams won, and how about it? The New York Yankees are back in the World Series.
Yep. So this area is absolutely thrilled. Yankees.
A lot of former players. Exactly. Yeah, a lot of former players were here in the World Series this year.
Exactly. So it'll be a fun one. It'll be a big one, especially against the Dodgers, coast to coast. They've got the history. You know, there's great sports happening at all levels, Joby. You gotta love it.
Joe, it's almost like Major League Baseball couldn't script it any better.
And we'll leave it at that.
That's all.
And we'll leave it at that. So, Joby, well, first of all, let's
thank Susan Arp.
Exactly. Well, thanks, Susan Arp. Thanks so much for joining us for a great interview to start the show. Joby, thank you for joining me. Again, Game Face will be in Friday's paper. We've got playoffs in every fall sport, either already in gear or kicking into high gear. Obviously, the high school football season will be getting there next week, but we've got the final regular season. We'll be sorting out seeding and everything for the high school football playoffs. Definitely follow along. It's going to be a busy week, obviously, for everybody, but we'll keep you up to date. Go to our website, the Times-Tribune.com/sports. Pick up a paper, and we'll be keeping you up to date on everything that's going on for a very exciting time in fall sports. Joby, thanks so much for joining me, my friend.